Okay, so next will be our project presentation that will be given by one of our network co-directors, Dr. Bill Lewis and Dr. Madison Humerick from the Eastern Division of Family Medicine. They will also be joined by a medical resident, Alex Shin. But before I hand things over to them, I'm going to hand things over to Assistant Director for the PBRN, Stacy Wanger, with a bit more of a detailed introduction.
Sure, thank you, Jen. I just want to reiterate, Danielle, that was fantastic. And I always just am in awe of how great you have a qualitative mindset for things. So I will be coming to you very, very often. But what I wanted to do is just give everyone a little bit of a snapshot of what we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. And this will lead into the next discussion. We are going to host a new project for the PBRN that is going to really be able to increase capacity among the residents in West Virginia. And so we've coined the name RORE instead of CORE. So it's going to be a resident survey. And so what we really want to do is have the residents be able to develop their own questions that they can include in a survey that they're going to conduct among themselves. So it's really, a small knit group, but we want to be supportive of them so then we can move them into the next group of practice-based researchers. So we have information that we'll send out after this session, but the idea really came from Bill Lewis. I'm going to turn it over to him and have him get started.
All right. Hi, everybody. It wasn't entirely my idea. Maddie and I worked together on all this, and it's mainly because our residents started going out that they need more surveys. We've had a change in, can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear, yes.
All right, good. Stacy was frozen on our screen, so I got worried there for a second. So there's some changes in IRB and how we collect data for our residents to run their research projects. So this year we're getting a lot of different types of ideas for their projects. We kind of always stress that they come up with the ideas, they move their projects forward on their own. We don't dictate to them, oh, this faculty's working on this project, this is what you have to do. We like them to follow their own interests and build up off of that. Again, just because it's now a little more difficult for us and we're working through how to pull our data again with some of these new rules, they started asking about surveys.
So yeah, a couple of the residents at education, we always go around each month and ask them what their research ideas are. And last education session, a bunch of them had a lot of provider questions. And it was a lot of survey type questions. And we said as a group, well, we should just get all the questions together as a team. And instead of surveying all of our providers and residents multiple times, we're going to put it in one survey. And then we looked at each other and Bill looked at me and he goes, oh, RORE. So because we thought, well, to get a bigger N, because some of the projects are really great ideas and we could use a larger N, we're like, why don't we put them in one survey and get residents across, the state to participate? And I thought, oh, this is cool. Maybe other residents have similar issues where they want a bigger N, and we could actually make these into bigger projects and get better answers and more responses. So
right, yeah, and it brings up, they just have a lot of really great ideas about where to go with things and ones that we don't think about as faculty, and we really want to encourage them. On the flip side, under the PBRN, what I really like about this is I really want to encourage all the residents who participate to come present the data at the PBRN conference or the CTSI conference and give them that venue to really get their ideas out there and really be able to talk to researchers and build it up. There's just the foundation of research in primary care is just lacking, and we're really trying to build it up, spark interest, get these relationships where people know one another and can move forward with it. And so my hope is as we get this out there and invite them in to participate with us, that they'll start joining in, and it will just really, one, grow the PBRN, but to let other primary care docs know about research and start a career with it. and run in parallel.
Yeah. Our hope is, I mean, many of our residents are actually joining us in the workforce just from the state of West Virginia. So it'd be exciting to kind of grow this little army of community researchers that will kind of just trickle that excitement down to other docs and other residents around the state. And I don't know if any of you guys have had trouble in the last year with COVID, but we just haven't had any of our attendings or residents going to conferences anymore. And so again, like Bill said, it'd be great to start getting us back into going to conferences, back into presenting, and this might be a great avenue to get us all rolling again as far as that goes.
Yeah. We wanted to have Alex, he's one of our senior residents. He's got a really great, interesting set of questions that he wants to present and ask across the state. And it goes differently than where you may think for this kind of survey data. And so we really wanted to get him in here to talk about it real quick with everybody. So I wanted to share that. And then afterwards, if anybody has questions, is affiliated with residencies, can help us build this up, I want to talk about that. But I wanted to let Alex just show this, where we can go with this, and get some, if anybody has feedback for him on how to phrase these better, that would be outstanding. So Jen, did you get his question set?
No, I did not. Do you have it pulled up and we can share the screen?
I sent the email to you. Let me see. Do you have it on your email?
I think that I do. I can forward it to you. Alex, do you want to give everybody a general idea of what made you kind of think of this question and what made you come up with this idea while I'm just emailing that?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, my name is Alex Shen. I'm one of the third-year residents at Harpers Ferry. Just want to thank you for the invitation first. And I guess so my topic, the research topic I was initially interested on was looking into like a doctors and their like financial understanding / like their understanding of retirement for the medical residents. So this is not necessarily a clinical question. My tentative title of the research was medical residents and retirement planning, but after that great talk of the qualitative research, I know how terrible this title is. So I'll make some modification to my title. So some of the questions, and I mean, my motivation to do this research is because this is one of my interests, and also I think doctors are kind of as a group, they are like classified as a like a high income individuals, and so they're like a retirement and understanding, like helping them understand like asset management gets overlooked, especially during the residency, because we're so focused on thank you. We're so focused on like learning like a clinical medicine. So and let's see, and I think especially now a lot of doctors are just employees working as this in like under hospital system. So I think they're really vulnerable to all these inflations we're talking about and financial changes. So and also like a financial stability for doctors, I think is very important to be able to focus on just making the right clinical judgment, and especially the ones that are not financially biased. So so some of the questions I came up with, I know like this is the questions, I think the asking, I try to simplify the questions so that they can read the questions and answer quickly, because I know they don't want to be writing like paragraphs and paragraphs for like each question. So these are some of the questions I came up with, but my ultimate goal is after collecting this data is trying to come up with a result that is we can analyze like a qualitatively on some level. I just don't want to make it like, oh, how much you have saved, this is how much you're going to need. But I just wanted to make it more like like how much the current residents understand and what kind of education we can provide so they can be more successful and so they can better manage their finance as an attending. So should I go over some of the questions, or what do you think, Dr. Humerick and Dr. Lewis?
We're just reading through them too as you're scrolling.
Okay.
Alex, I'm curious, this is just, are you guys required now to contribute to your retirement during residency? I can't remember if that was a forced thing or if I opted in or out of that.
I think it's a West Virginia thing, if that's my understanding is correct. So I think we're forced to contribute a certain amount, but there's also like a voluntary contribution you can make, which I don't think anybody knew about as a resident. I don't think we were ever like really educated on. So, and it is not something we commonly talk about, like, you know, during our education or even like personal level. So
maybe that would be an interesting question to break that apart and say, you know, I have mandatory contribution to my retirement. Yes, no, I don't know. And then do you make voluntary contributions? Yes, because that might be, because it'd be curious to see across the state and different residency programs whether they're required or if they just voluntarily do it.
Gotcha. Okay.
And to me, with this kind of question, this could lead to more resident education, prepping what we need to do to, again, fill in your needs and get you in the place you need to be. We've episodically had people talk about financial planning with our residents, but we've got nothing formal in on it. I mean, you've been here almost 3 years and you view it as a necessary thing that hasn't been addressed for you. So, and this, like I said, this is what I like about the resident questions. It's something very practical on a level that you want to see where we're at and want to build on. Two of the other ones, we were, one of the residents is looking at your comfort with different derm procedures and what you feel ready to move on. And then it was,
how comfortable do you feel counseling parents on screen time with children on appropriate levels of screen time, appropriate coping mechanisms to reduce screen time?
It's so again, to us, I think we're capturing a big range of questions and everything like that. I really want to reach out. I know we've talked with Tria and some other people. Other residencies to break it down. So we just got a note from Jen. We didn't actually describe what we were doing. So sorry about that part. But to this point, does anybody have any questions about what Alex is talking about? And then we'll go into the full breakdown on how we're going to do it.
I don't have any questions about the specific content, but I do have a question. You alluded to early on switching to this format of data collection because of changes in the IRB process. And I'm curious as to what makes this a less burdensome approach than something else, some other approach.
We have a blanket IRB, our survey process, which makes it easier so we can just update data in an ongoing fashion with this. It's the data collection. Our problem is not the IRB so much as data security issues, and we have to collect our data and get our cohorts not through Epic any longer. We have to get them through Trinetics, and there's another step involved in that, and we don't have that process down yet because this transition just changed a month ago.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to work that out, and we have a process for this already in place.
Okay, so it's a
Built-
comprehensive, so it's a family, it's a specific challenge for your practice.
Yeah, it's a change within the WVU system that is really hit how we have done our research for the residents and med students out in the Eastern Panhandle. We've used a tool called Slicer Dicer built into Epic for years, and that's being limited. And so we were actually the biggest users in the system of it. And so, like I said, we're working around it to come up with another way.
I think it was just that most of the residents, rather than doing a retrospective chart review, which is what most of them did last time,
Yeah.
now some of the residents are moving more towards this survey idea, or at least they had a bunch more of survey ideas, which since CORE already had kind of a system in place for doing that across the state, we thought that might be a good avenue to use for these particular projects.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. So a quick overview of how we would submit this and do this. So with CORE, we have a call for papers or call for questions that researchers, family docs across the state turn in their questions to us. There's a review process. The top 3 sets of 10 get chosen, and then we send out a survey to our whole listserv, encourage other people to send it out in kind of more of a snowball format to build up to get the survey questions answered. And we've had 70 some last year and 100 and some the year before come back in that return in those surveys the past couple of years for CORE. With this, we want to directly send it to residencies. The difference is going to be, we don't want any resident who wants to submit would be allowed. We want to limit the question number down. We were initially thinking 5. Alexa questionnaire set seems super fast. So we just want to talk about where we're going to go with that, but a very narrow focused and not have any rejection process. We would like to provide feedback to any resident who submits, have faculty members be able to talk to the residents, see if they can build off their idea and expand on it, make sure they're getting good questions asked. We provide that to our CORE recipients to build it out. And again, then our ask would be that they be able to try to come and talk and present at some level to us to build it up, but then send these questions directly to the residents. So if we can get my goal and vision is to get different residencies to participate, family medicine, internal medicine across the state, and get that feedback directly from them, from the residents in their classes. So we're in the process of trying to reach out to residency programs across the state to see if they want to participate, and their residents can submit surveys and then just answer the questionnaire when it comes in on that side.
Do you guys have a list of residencies that are already part of the PBRN? Do you know how many there are already?
We've got most in the state are participating in it at some levels, some more than others on active participation. But again, that's why we want to kind of email directly and give a call to some of the programs that are that are members but not in on the calls and stuff like that. Because with the requirements in residency, you participate in scholarly activity of some sort. We feel like this could really meet that and help across the board. I know Charleston's got a really extensive poster day and research event every year. I know everybody has to participate. I didn't know what other people's timelines were when your poster and presentation sections were, when they need data.
That might be a good question to ask other programs.
Because we reach out, everything has to be submitted for our poster session in February. I didn't know, Mary or Tria, when you guys wanted data for, or when everything had to be turned in.
I know we did. we had one in maybe October this year, September or October. I think the plan is for it to usually be in the fall, but I'm pretty sure internal medicine at WVU has a research day in the spring. So I don't know if you'll be able to hit, a good time. They'll hit everyone, but I think, most of the residents have 3 years at least, some 4.
Right.
So as long as they think about this on the front end, they'd be able to get their scholarly activity started earlier rather than later and go for the next cycle,
Yeah. Get their data in the spring and then be ready for that fall poster.
Yep. Or get in the spring, and if they miss that year, they present the next year,
Because we ask ours to do something annually. So they have to, every year they're in residency, they have to have some scholarly activity. It doesn't have to be the same project.
I think that's the hard thing too, is that I think every residency has slightly different ways they do it. Ours we kind of have a menu of options, and they have to get a of points off the menu of options towards their scholarly activity. So it doesn't mean they're always doing a project every year, because somebody might have a bigger project and somebody else has a survey, so they're just kind of moving forwards off this menu, or they might be writing a case report and that counts for something, or something like that.
Thank you.
So I have another question. When we send out our core survey, we have a few questions at the top that we kind of basically coin as demographics. So it's a little bit different. We do ask questions like, how long have you been in practice at your site? How long have you been in practice total? What are your specialties? How many patients are in your patient panel, kind of the range there. What kinds of questions do you think would be helpful to get at the information that you're thinking of, but would be focused on a resident?
Well, definitely year in practice.
Yeah, for sure. I think location of practice too. Don't we have a drop down list on the core survey? Because I thought that was helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, we're looking hopefully between what specialty, family medicine, internal medicine, across the board. PGY 1, 2, 3. I think those are all. I think we'll need a little bit, where you're at, what year are you, what's your specialty. I think we can be a little more near. We won't need as much on the demographics. I have been considering, is there a running question that would be interesting to have over time and valuable to the PBRN and inform practice in West Virginia or anything like that? Are you planning to stay in the state after graduation? Are you planning to do fellowship after graduation? Some questions along those lines, just not tied to a specific one, but just if we could give some kind of state of the education through the network kind of data. So just or inform some longer term research project. If somebody has ideas, again, we're open to hear anything towards that.
We already ask those questions every year here.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, as part of our resident experience survey. We do a resident experience survey, and that questions are part of it every year.
Good. I figured those sort of things were being tracked, but I just, like I said, I've been thinking about this since we're building it from the ground up. Is there something that could tie back to primary care research, or tie back into this, that we could just have longitudinally to answer people? Could could be, are you saving for retirement or something like that? Has that changed over time? I think that's got some value and nobody's asking it over time. So
I like this idea about a constant question over time. I wonder about, and this might be qualitative, about asking a question about their long-term interest in research, just to gauge
yeah.
where people are at when they're at whatever stage in residency with primary care research. I think that could be really valuable to the PBRN over immediately and over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and we actually asked that of our residents, and
As last year.
they weren't real interested, but that's okay.
No.
We got to change their mind. They weren't interested in going to conferences either, but I've never had anybody sad they went to a conference to present afterwards. Beforehand, while they're making everything, yes, they're always very sad and it's traumatic. Well,
I would think that we might want to, that residents might want to ask some questions about, since this is tied to the clinical learning environment, questions about what type of process improvement methodology they're learning, and how useful that would be in terms of their future practices. Getting at something. Those would be kind of standard kinds of things across any residency program.
yeah. How are you hitting the
Pulling questions out of your clinical learning environment stuff.
Yeah.
Personally, I would find that kind of fun, but
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like to know more about that.
Maddie and I think they, at some level, enjoy how we have them ask questions about their learning at a broader scale. So we're Alex, don't tell us if you don't enjoy this, but
Do you use the PDSA cycle, or do you use Six Sigma, or what? What's the methodology?
yeah.
I think those are all great ideas. I like that a lot.
All right. Well, we are up to 1 here, so
Yeah, we are getting close on time. So if there's any additional questions, as mentioned before, please feel free to send them to me directly, or you can put them in the chat before we all break, and I can include those in the recap notes, and we can continue this discussion and feedback as the process is ongoing. Thank you so much, Alex and Dr. Humrick, Dr. Lewis, for your time.
Thanks for having us.
yeah, thank you.